We are joined now by CEO of the Boilermaker Alliance, David Neff. Dave Neff joins us, and he has been in that position for a few months. He's a grizzled veteran now, I'm sure. It brings the smiles to his face. But welcome to talking to our goldenblack.com audience. But you have been a busy man over the last few months since joining the Alliance as the CEO.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be on with you, Alan. And yeah, you're right. I've been in this role coming up on 3 months, and it's been fast and furious, but I think we're making some good headway and excited to share some updates today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, Saturday night, this is all of this and trying to raise money through the Alliance is built on fan enthusiasm and excitement, and it's going to be hard pressed to beat what's going on with men's basketball right now. Saturday night, Michigan State comes to town. It's T-shirt day. Purdue's looking right at a Big Ten championship. In fact, by the time some of the folks listen to this, who knows? Purdue may be that at least have a share of the title. But talk about just that enthusiasm that you found in Boilermaker Nation, and certainly buoyed by the play of Matt Painter's team this year.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting time, especially for a newcomer like me to be joining Boiler Nation. And as we're going into March, I think there's probably not been this level of anticipation, right, for a team. And I know the history, right, of Boiler fans, and so we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch. But I think with likely the Midwest rounds 1 and 2, hopefully Purdue's in Indy, and then you're looking at even Sweet 16, Elite 8 up in Detroit, and then Phoenix. We're excited because a big March and hopefully April certainly, I think, would translate into some great visibility for our work at the Alliance.
Yeah, no doubt. And it is as much as anything, you've got to do education. Yes, you're raising money, but this whole new world is a whole new world. And you've been around athletics for a long time, but it's changed so dramatically. And we it's always good for us to go back and kind of rephrase and kind of do collective 101. So that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. Just talk about the collective, why maybe seem obvious to some people, not obvious to others. Why does it exist? What's the need for the collective if you go back to basics?
Yeah. So the collective really exists to support the advancement of NIL opportunities for Purdue student athletes. And like it or not, it's part of the equation, right? In today's landscape of college athletics. And so I live outside Purdue. I'm not a Purdue athletics employee. However, with Boilermaker Alliance being the exclusive collective of Purdue athletics, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm an extension of the team. We collaborate very closely with John Purdue Club and the rest of the sports administrators inside athletics, and that level of trust and alignment is key in order for us to really move the ball down the field, whether it's a fundraising or just raising the brand and the visibility of Boilermaker Alliance.
Key thing to do. Nobody is more important. In Ryan Waller's an interview that we'll be posting on our site, a 25-minute interview he did with Tom Dienhart on the Boilermaker Alliance, just talking about that need. I mean, that need for being able to raise money. And Coach Ryan Walters talks about what a better position Purdue is in this year versus last, and that's taken a lot of work by a lot of people to get that done.
Yeah, a number of people have stepped up, to give you a sense of just the growth year over year. The collective 4x'd its budget year over year. And so number of very generous folks from a donor perspective, as well as our membership model, which we continue to really drive home. And you guys have been a great partner at Golden Black on that. And, our work is both on the charitable side as well as on the for-profit side. We've got a couple different lanes into how we raise funds. And the charitable piece, obviously, as a 501c3, we can accept donor dollars, and our student athletes go out into the community every month to serve and lift up the Boys and Girls Club, Versity Blood Bank, reading at elementary schools, and that's a really neat opportunity for them to have as student athletes as part of their experience at Purdue. And then on the for-profit side, as we look at NIL deals for student athletes, the membership model, which starts as low as $25 a month. And Alan, I want to share that we've got an anonymous donor who has pledged to match up to $2 million in new members. So, you know, we really want to grow this from where we're at today to, I'd love to see us at 3,000, 4,000 members, which with a living alumni base of 600,000, I think is certainly feasible. And that allows us to be more of a sustainable recurring revenue stream versus going for, you know, big checks every year. And so it's been a lot of people have contributed to the success, and we're working every day to come up with creative ways to drive revenue.
Yeah, we'll put links on how to join the Boilermaker Alliance as well. Not only with this Golden Black Live, but also our Saturday simulcast, because it is important that people understand what the deal and the importance of this moving forward. I mean, it is a daunting task for every Power 5 school, every school really in college athletics, that to be able to figure this stuff out and be able to move it forward. You mentioned the membership model. You've got all different levels. One of the things is David has said is that you get Gold and Black as part of that. You also get some exclusive videos. I mean, like we talked about the Ryan Walters interviews with all of the transfer portal guys in football. Matt Painter comes on and talks. Brian Newbert has interviewed him in addition to other coaches and players. I mean, it's a full-blown process to make that membership model relevant and of value to Purdue fans.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that content you've alluded to, the Coach Walters interview that came out recently. I mean, it's 25 minutes that I think any Purdue football fan would love to see. And then as you mentioned, we've done interviews with all of the transfer portal players that we picked up here in the last couple months, and we're going to continue to invest there so that we've got exclusive content that goes above and beyond the great content that you guys already provide to Golden Black members.
Yeah, to be clear too, if you are a Golden Black subscriber, you can become a member of the Alliance. It's a pretty seamless process. You know, we'll basically convert you over to that as well. You'll still get the access to all our premium content, our message boards, and the Boilermaker Alliance message board. That's a big, a big added benefit if you're interested in supporting the Alliance. And again, we'll have more information with that on the site as well, in addition to what we linked to the Ryan Walters interview too, because that's a big thing moving forward is, again, that access to guys. I know Mason Gillis, for example, I know he was in the schools on Thursday in Lafayette. Talk about you've got it, and Ryan Walters talks about in the interview that you have a lot of contact, you and your staff, to be able to not only work with coaches, but work with the athletes to be able to get them out in the community and actively doing it. Talk about how that's worked in your time so far, because you've got to have a lot of participation and deal with coaches that are extremely busy with what they have to do.
Yeah. It's been my experience that the coaches and the student athletes really want to make this work. They recognize the value that the collective's bringing. And so they've been great partners in terms of whether it's the student athletes getting out and serving, right, which is part of their contract with the Alliance. And I've got a staff member, Maddie, who does a great job coordinating with the charities and the student athletes. And there's a lot of busy schedules. And so she navigates that with ease. And then we've got, the coaches and their staffs are great partners in trying to help us, capture videos of the impact of how NIL has impacted student athletes and their families, and how it's enabled them to use some of that money so that their parents or family members can fly out and watch them playing games and get a hotel room and pay for parking. I mean, things that add up. That's certainly well above and beyond, the scholarships that they receive. And so it's been there's a lot of stakeholders, a lot of bases to cover, but that level of collaboration is key.
Yeah, I know one of the ones you talked about earlier, and it was, I think, is also a video too with Lance Jones, and of course Lance, who's made such a huge difference to Matt Painter's squad, and it's hoped to go deep into March. But that story is an interesting one, a very personal one, because, of course, Lance's father passed away. But talk about that and what that has meant, maybe it's anecdotal, but it is, a shining example of what some of this stuff can provide. Some of these funds can provide for a guy like Lance Jones in a time of need.
Yeah. Yeah. The Big Ten Conference did a great job with that package, that story that came out, I think, last month. But
Right.
yeah, you nailed it. When Lance transferred in, my understanding is his father passed away around the same time, and the entire Purdue team came to the funeral, which he was new to the team. I know that really lifted his spirits, but I think he's been able to use some of his NIL money when the team was out playing at the Maui Invitational back in November, and his mother was able to come out and watch him play. And so it's been a real meaningful difference, in that specific incident.
Yeah, and certainly Lance has gone through a lot, and being able to do that is a huge advantage or huge plus for.
He's a
For a very,
viral
very
sensation this year. The
yes, yeah, he is.
has taken off, So I see
Yeah.
T-shirts and all sorts of things out there.
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of interesting. It is really interesting, really. And you talked about in one of your partnerships. I want to talk about other ways you. One is with Home Field Sports, somebody that we've worked with over the years. Very creative in terms of how they produce merchandise, but also seeing all the things that it really has, as we talked about, spawned a whole nother world. The big maple shirts for Zach Edey on down the line, but it has caused. Or has given the opportunity for some of these student athletes to really to test their marketing acumen as they move forward.
Yeah. So you referenced the Home Field deal. That's something that we just executed earlier this month. So Home Field Apparel, great retail company based actually in Indianapolis, and they've got, I think, close to 180 licenses with D1 schools, Purdue being one. So that's been in place, and we were approached about being a part of their initial wave of a program that really would drive revenue into collectives. And so earlier, about a couple of weeks ago, there's going to be 5 more opportunities this year. So 6 days over the course of the year. If folks from Boiler Nation go on homefieldapparel.com, and we'll be sure to put out an email and make folks aware on social media when those days are. And use a specific code, BoilerUp24, 20% of the proceeds of whatever their sale is goes into the collective on those 6 days. And then any day throughout the year, if they're a new first-time Home Field customer, 10% of proceeds, again, the code BoilerUp24 needs to be used, goes into the collective. So again, creative way to drive revenue. You also referenced the NIL store, which is actually done through a different partner with the university, Campus Inc. The NIL store, I know, has had a lot of success. That's actually currently outside the collective, but that's a great way for student athletes to directly monetize their name, image, and likeness, and they get a cut of every T-shirt sold directly to the student athlete. So again, you're going to probably continue to see more of these sort of marketing partnerships. There's a lot of other categories where I think we can get creative.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you have to have in your role, it seems, is you got to be nimble. You got to be willing to deal with change and deal with a changing landscape. I mean, there's been so much talk about not only legislation, but how and where this is going. I guess that would be a question I'd have. How do you see, now that you're in the arena on a living, breathing it on a daily basis and then some, how do you see this? Do you see this settling? Do you see this constant state of flux? How do you look at this down the road?
Yeah, this is a popular question, and I talk about this with my board as well as with Purdue Athletics. In terms of our stance, Alan, it's business as usual, right? There's a lot of swirl out there and injunctions and different things happening. It feels like almost every other week. But we've got a job to do in the near term, and that's to raise the profile, to relentlessly pursue revenue, creative ways to drive revenue, both through charitable dollars as well as our membership revenue and potential corporate deals. And so that's really our focus. We're not going to get too swept up in what does a year from now or 3 years from now look like? Will it look different? More than likely, yes. But in the near term, we really want to keep our focus on what we directly can control, because there's a lot out there that we can't control.
Yeah, it's control what you can control. That's I think has got to be an absolute must if I'm sitting in your shoes. All right, I want to ask you about Ryan Walters because again in that interview we we touched on him a little bit, but just you've gotten to know some of these folks. You see what makes him able and capable of the job he's doing. Yet it is a challenging job, not only just putting a football team on in an 18 what will now be an 18 team Big Ten conference, but also it's the head on a swivel. You've got to be ready. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be ready to the month of January is crazy when it comes to the transfer portal, and you guys get tied into that. But just give us a sense of how close you're working, not only with Ryan but his staff, just because you've got to be able to do it. One would think to be able to move things forward in terms of acquiring the talent you want at Purdue.
Absolutely. I've been blown away by Coach Walters for a relatively young head coach in a Power Four school, obviously entering his second season. I mean, the role of a head coach has evolved so much over the last 3 years. Fundraising really wasn't in the probably job description not too long ago, and he's been a great partner in terms of saying, "Hey, Dave, who can I call? Who do you want me to follow up with?" Right, and he'll make those calls. He's not just coming saying, "Hey, where's the money?" He's willing to be a partner in having those conversations and casting and laying out his vision for supporters of Purdue football to really hear kind of, hey, how we're approaching it at Purdue, even within the Big Ten, right, is probably different than some of the other schools. And so he's been a really fantastic partner. I try to be, very collaborative, supportive. I know this is a big priority of his in the spring. We've got a spring portal coming up mid-April after the spring football game, going into the 1st of May, and so this is a top priority as he laid out in his interview last week with you guys.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to be there. All right, I'm going to give you the floor to give us the last elevator speech, or you've kind of given the elevator speech, but what else is really top of mind as you continue to navigate your way through all of this and your day to day?
Well, we're always prioritizing men's basketball, women's basketball, football, and women's volleyball. So I know we haven't touched on all those in this interview, but that's really our priority. Again, we have the ability to take in funds for any varsity sport, and we have for sports beyond those. But it's all gas, no brakes. And so as we March, obviously we're hoping for big things for men's basketball. We've got spring football game is around the corner right after that, April 13th. Spring practices coming up. So it's not slowing down. And again, my encouragement would be, get on BoilerMakerAlliance.com, become a member. You'll get access to this exclusive content. Again, we've got a very generous anonymous match for up to $2 million towards new memberships. We've got to get this flywheel going. And if you care about Purdue athletics, that's the best way to engage with the collective right now.
All right, well said, and we appreciate that very much. We'll also have that information, as I said, on our site. So if you need more information, this is a group that will answer your call, so to speak, if you have more questions and things of that nature. All right, David, thanks so much for your time. We'll do this again. This will be an every at least twice a year conversation, because when we can find time, you're the fastest. Maybe the busiest man in show business these days. I don't envy your role, but you seem to be doing it very well. We appreciate that very much. Thank you for taking the time to join us here at on goldenblack.com. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Kevin Sullivan. We'll kind of get his feel for the world of college media these days, the NBA, Zach Edey's position in the draft, all these things that are going to be top of mind awareness after this basketball season gets done. And we'll be back in a couple minutes to have that discussion. So stay tuned, and we'll be back here shortly.